gentlemen, boys and girls, game enthusiasts of old games that no one plays anymore. Welcome to the dumpster fire that is my YouTube channel, not just my Twitch channel. I'm your guy, DJ Soundstorm. So this is Bad Gamer Bias Review. We started doing this series a long time ago, and we said that we were going to put in a bunch of these reviews for games that we played live on stream. Now, as we've gone through our little YouTube journey, we found out that even if we are just playing clips like you guys are seeing right over here, if there's music from the games, it's going to get copyrighted. So the one thing that I can do to combat that is lean on Monster Cat music, because we are okay to play Monster Cat anywhere we stream. So I apologize that the music doesn't fit for the title and the topic here, and for those of you guys that are already recognizing the stuff going on down the corner on this side, we're doing the Bad Gamer Bias review for Final Fantasy VIII. We're going to systematically go through all of the games that we have played on my channel. Obviously, we didn't play any of these like vanilla or base or anything. And right now, currently, we are playing Final Fantasy VII's New Threat 2.0 with the Type B hard mode live on our Twitch when we are up at least 2 days a week. We do stream 5 days a week over on that platform and stream 2 days here on YouTube and on Facebook Gaming. Not at the same time. Easy Twitch. So, let's talk about a game that everybody has extremely mixed feelings for that came out when I was a very impressionable youth and really enjoyed my playthrough. You guys know how my ranking system goes. I'm not a developer, I'm not a professional, I'm not a speedrunner. I'm just a dude that plays games and likes to enjoy the games that he's playing with my Twitch channel and with our YouTube subscribers and followers and everybody else of the like. So, this is going to be very generic, very simple. I'm going to talk about some things that I know a lot of people throughout our playthrough commented on in terms of the game, and then give an overall score based on how I feel about the game. Again, this is a Bad Gamer, that's me. This is a biased review, that's what you're going to hear. And if you disagree with it, by all means, let us know in the comment. Also, here comes your generic, everybody on YouTube says this, be sure if you're enjoying the content, you are smashing that like button, you are hitting subscribe. If you decide to hit the bell and change it to all notifications, like that's up to you. I don't want to be bothering folks. We release content every 48 hours here on YouTube, so I don't want like everybody to be like, fuck this dude again. So like, completely up to you. Anyway, let's jump into Final Fantasy VIII. So, we'll start off with our main categories that we use to describe the games and kind of give our bullet points for what really matters to me and what matters to our viewers when they're watching it. The first category is how does it play? The second one is systems in the game and how it affects gameplay or the overall experience. And the third one is how does the story captivate and completely draw us in. After we get done with those points, we'll give our overall score out of 10, just because it's basic and it's easy. And then also, at the end, as a bonus, I can lead you guys, and it'll be posted in the description of the video, exactly where you can go if you have the game for PC and you're interested in a modded playthrough that may reinvigorate your love for the game. So let's jump right into how does it play. 8 played like every other Final Fantasy at the time. The jump from 7 with the polygons to 8 with the more realistic textures and stuff that they were trying to implement for the game, and the massive budget they used for all the CG, which you guys are seeing right over here right now. Here, over here. Was crazy. I remember the promotion for this game and being like, wow, this is what's coming after 7? Woo! How does it play? It plays like RPGs did at the time. Square tried some different things for Final Fantasy VIII, but essentially it played like every one of the other turn-based RPGs at the time. There wasn't too much extra added in for this one. Some of the other systems that we'll get into at the next bullet point affected the gameplay a little bit, but overall, it played exactly like you would expect for a JRPG of the time. Super turn-based, there was, extra elemental weaknesses, there were strengths and weaknesses for each person, and it played like you would expect a Final Fantasy to. Literally top of class, and simple for people that played them already. Wasn't super hard to wrap your head around, and the gameplay was at pace with the ATB system and everything else that we were very used to from Final Fantasy VII. So in terms of how it played like every other game that was top of class at the time that came out from Square. Exact same setup, exact same concept. Systems in the game and how it affected the gameplay. This is where we're going to get completely roasted on the channel from people that played Final Fantasy VIII and hate the draw system. So the systems in the game, from side quests to the actual base systems that help people play the game. The draw system, triple triad for the side missions that were there. The upgrading system for the first time, being able to use components and do the full upgrades to the next level of the item. The number one thing that sticks out to everybody is the draw system. Not only does the system of the monsters leveling up as you go bring up a little bit of controversy, but that draw system, ooh boy, no one likes to think about that as a good system. Me personally, I liked it. At the time, it was making me take a step back, focus on what was going to maximize, and when you put the time and the effort into it, you came out of it so much stronger. It was insane. Like, that was the way to get your power to creep. You were drawing off of new enemies, and honestly, that draw system itself, if you were staying true to what the system was doing and not just ignoring it, there were certain guardian forces and certain powers that were locked behind that system that made it where you had to do it. Now, I can understand the force system, people being like, listen, it was just a pain in the ass because it was consistently always, we need to do this, we need to do that. We had to spend so much time fighting enemies, putting them to sleep, drawing them. We spent so much time doing it, and that's fine. But in 7, more than likely, you did some grinding. In 6, more than likely, you did some grinding. In other titles around the same time that came out as 7 and 8, guess what you did? You did some grinding. And there's enemies in this game that you couldn't just walk into and kill because you had to do some grinding. Now, I understand that there are people that can speedrun the game and that they probably didn't have to do any grinding. And that probably made a lot more interesting people to watch. But for those of us that were just playing to get to that max level, get to that max strength, you know, utilize the systems, it did extend the gameplay, however forced it actually came off as. So, other highlights from those systems would be the upgrade system, which I thought was fantastic. Having something to work for, picking up the pieces, having things to work for to get to that next power level based on your weapons was crazy. Really liked it. Like, it felt new, even though it was still a basic system, that just made sense. And you were hunting for those items, or you were playing Triple Triad, which is one of my favorite side quests in the entirety of Final Fantasy as a series, from, we'll say, 6 all the way through 10. Just for that prime time group of those games that was there. Triple Triad not only was challenging at the time, there was a little RNG involved with it, but you were, at certain points in time, traveling around the world just to play cards. And those cards, when you got closer to endgame, those cards could be refined and would get you to your next power level. So, all of the things that they had put into the game were stacking other little hurdles that you had to get over until you could unlock your absolute maximum power. And I really like that. It made you care about each individual item, each individual card, the side quests, and even an alien side quest. Like, all of the stuff that they had in 8 was a little extra in certain points of it. It wasn't like 7 with some of the side quests, obviously. There was some extra stuff for this one, right? But because of the realism attempt that you're seeing on screen again over here, it didn't bother me. It still felt like a new era of gaming because, oh my god, they're not polygons, bro. And Triple Triad was fun. It made you go to different parts of the world. It was running you over different mob types that you probably should have been drawing from in the first place, right? Yeah, overall, I would say that the systems actually made the game more deep for me personally, even though I know everybody hates on that draw system. How does the story captivate and draw you in? This is another one of those things where it could get a little bit weird. Typical to the times, you have your somewhat emotional teenager that's trying to find their own and has to, throughout the course of the story, become more adult. Be able to handle the situations and the crises that were happening in the world of this Final Fantasy. You had your bad guy, you had multiple bad guys, you had friends of the fucking bad guys, and you had bonds that you had to build with everybody else in the party. Including bonds that you had to build with your freaking guardian forces, your summons, for God's sakes. Stories that kind of left a little to question or answered more questions that you had. Side quests for Odin, side quests into the where Ultima's at, the buried reactor, the underwater reactor kind of deal that they did. The ruins, everything that was here, even the island of heaven and hell, which is just a position that they let you go and either grind or get completely deleted instantly. Pretty much everything that they did throughout the story, with the exception of the weird time travel ending, it made you emotionally care about these characters. Now, I will say that it made you emotionally care about these characters more if you're talking about Rinoa and Squall, because probably one of the most iconic scenes for these Final Fantasies was the scene in Ragnarok in space, and for some people that may have been where it got a little bit weird, where they did the let's explain the two sides with Laguna Ward and what's going on in the real world, and then meeting them up together. Some people would complain that that was a little like, God, do we have to connect the dots so hard and try to explain all this stuff? But I think that general flow was actually an interesting part of the game, seeing the past, seeing exactly what was going on. The spot people are going to complain about being drug in for is going to be Ultimessia's castle. It kind of, and this is just my personal feeling on it, obviously, being a bad gamer and having a biased review, it kind of feels like they didn't really know how they wanted to wrap things up, and they were running out of a budget. And then they were like, all right, time travel, Adia, floating fortress, here's all the extras. Now, don't get me wrong, it was executed well in game. It didn't feel like there was a stopping point by any means, but it just kind of seemed left field. And all of a sudden, we're traveling through space and time, and everybody's related, and we have to go back and see exactly how this happened, and it was all preordained fate. And I feel like what happened was they tried to take what they were pushing as a modern, more modern feeling Final Fantasy, and they waited until the end. The beginning of it was all militaristic, all, let's prepare for conflict, let's get these guys ready, they are seed, they are these mercenaries. And then at the end, it was like, oh, by the way, we forgot about the fantasy aspect of this for a majority of this game, so bleh. You're welcome. It's like, wait, hold up. What? So that part to me is the one thing that stands out to me that could have either been done a little bit differently or explained differently, but I still dug it. The side bosses and the ultimate bosses in the game, coming from 7, knowing that there was Emerald, Ruby, the other optional quests that were there. I will tell you that when we played the game on a harder difficulty, and Ultima and Omega were not a joke. Were not a joke at all. It was insane. But in terms of, did the story captivate and make you want to defeat the big bad guy because of an emotional connection that you have with the characters? Yeah, it did. A lot. Even if it kind of revolved around Rinoa and Squall the entire time, it still did. It drew you into the universe. You felt like there was things at stake. You felt like there was a purpose for what you were doing, and you actually cared what happened. May have gotten a little convoluted at some points, but you did. And that's something that I think in a lot of newer video games, we don't have as much of anymore, if I'm being honest. You play the game, you enjoy the systems, and you lean on those systems because, fuck, this gameplay is amazing. But you don't care. I can honestly say that I did care about Squall, Rinoa, and Zell's journey. And having the weird chick hunter in Irvin, and the way that they developed everybody was still deep enough that you actually generally cared about what was going on. So big ace on that one. So now we're at the overall score. How does Final Fantasy VIII stack against games like Final Fantasy VII, games like Legend of Dragoon, and other games that we've played on my channel? This is going to sound really, really cliche, and definitely not planned, because I don't really have scripts for all these, just a couple of highlighted bookmarks on things that I need to talk about based on how I want the reviews to go. But I'm probably going to have to give this one an 8 out of 10. Not to troll. All of the base components of Final Fantasy was there. I cared about and got drug into the world. At the time of release, this game was large. Like, larger than me. It was new graphic attempts. Everything was blurred, but there wasn't polygons. This was pushing into a level that we weren't ready for. And considering they went to 9 after this and went back to the fantasy aspect of it, because they didn't feel that 8 was as big of a success. Looking back on it now, for those of us that loved this game, whoo! This maybe wasn't the same hype as 7 because of how good the story was, and overall encompassing that game made you care about what was happening. But it was still fantastic. It really was. The GFs were fun, the boost system was fantastic. Everything about this game made you appreciate Final Fantasy. And that was its goal. I realize it may not be as popular with most people, but again, this is a bad gamer bias review, and I freaking love it. 8 out of 10, I'll stand by it, die by it. I'm excited to get back and play this game again on stream because it was such a fun time to talk to other people who felt the exact same way, and to talk to people that just wanted to say the things that they thought were wrong with it. So yeah, 8 out of 10. Fight me, I guess. For those of you guys that are interested, a good friend of our channel on Twitch, McKindis, and I believe Faded Courage is still part of that project. If you're interested in playing this game again from the PC version and upping the ante a little bit, I highly recommend Lunatic Pandora. There will be a Gigapixel release from McKindis himself coming out very soon for the game, and yeah, when we played through, our playthrough was with Lunatic Pandora. Those guys do a fantastic job. The graphics, the artwork that they've done, some of it was lifted by Square and used for their remaster. I'm sure McKindis is very happy about that. And all of us saw it, Square. We see you stealing the community stuff. Stop that. Either way, if you guys are not familiar with McKindis and you are not familiar with Lunatic Pandora, we highly suggest here on my channel trying it out for yourself. The hard mode, the graphics updates, Roses and Wine for the organized compilation for the songs, everything that they did is fantastic. And it makes you fall in love with this game all over again. That's going to be it for us, guys. That ends our Bad Gamer Bias review of Final Fantasy VIII. And stay posted for the next one. We'll be looking for you.